YouTube Bazico in the Goat House is back. We got bold predictions sent in by you guys through our Twitter. If you want to play along, make sure you follow that Twitter. There's a link down below, pinned in the comments for that, as well as anything else you're looking for. Picks, leagues, GLD shop. You see I'm rocking their Eagles chain right now. We have a code GOAT for 33% off. Again, more info in those links. Pin in the comments. So for bold predictions, we do this every Thursday afternoon. You guys play along by submitting bold takes either for that week or the season on our Twitter. But here we go. Let's get started. First one from Justin Miller, that is aka Daniel Cheesington. Fields has his best career performance, and he's got a little clip for us. Hot young quarterback. It's a hell of a fantasy name, by the way. He's putting Justin Fields in, taking Carson Wentz out, putting Justin Fields in. He's making a statement here. Fields has his best career performance this week. They play the Vikings. Fields has been a little underwhelming so far. He had a couple good games last year. Remember that Steelers game was pretty solid. But I think this is pretty realistic. I'm not in love with the Vikings defense so far. Maybe they've been saving a little bit. It's kind of been pretty basic, a lot of zone coverage, but they're giving up quite a bit on the ground and through the air. They're not giving up a ton of points. The yardage to points doesn't really match up, in my opinion, based on what I've seen. It feels like they should be giving up more points. They're not. So maybe they're pretty solid in the red zone. But I think that was getting annoying. It kept playing. But yeah, if he didn't catch it, he put Fields in his lineup. But yeah, I think it's realistic because again, worried a little bit about the Vikings defense. I think Fields this is the chance for him to kind of get going. I don't think he's gonna light up the Vikings defense, but I think he can have a pretty good game, and it's not gonna take a whole lot to have his best game of the year or his best game of his career. So I do like that one. I think it's realistic. I didn't say it's happening. I could have said that. I'm gonna say it's realistic though. I could see it happening. And then the next one, who do we got next? We got Christopher Deaton. So this is one for the season. Rams aren't making the playoffs. And the Rams are struggling a little bit right now. They haven't really, even when they beat the Cardinals, they were somewhat impressive on defense. Nothing spectacular in that game. When they beat the Falcons, they kind of let them come back. And then the other two games were losses. They play the Cowboys this week, so it's a chance to do something good here, a chance to look good. And then the Rams, Stafford not looking right, under pressure a ton because the offensive line is not really right. Missing a guy like Von Miller that we were kind of starting to get used to seeing him in the end of the year. So I think a lot of people are talking. They're talking right now. They're saying the Rams aren't nearly as good as last year. And maybe some people feel like they don't feel like a playoff team right now. And maybe they don't feel like it right now. But I think that's pretty piping still. I think the Rams figure out at some point, one. Number two, the NFC is just not that good, I don't think. Like there's a lot of openings where the Rams, it feels like they got to take one of those openings, whether if it's winning their division or getting a wild card spot, being second in their division. I feel like they're going to take one of those NFC spots just because there isn't a lot of great teams in the NFC. Like the AFC is, and there's some good teams in the NFC, don't get me wrong, but it's not a long list of the good, feel like playoff teams. So I think the Rams got to be in there. Another thing, so we had one. What was my number one? I think the Rams probably figured out, they're going to get going at some point. Number two, there's not that many great NFC teams. It's not enough for the Rams not to make it. And number three, I think right now people are a little maybe overreacting or basing things off the Niners game, which it was a bad game, but that's kind of how the Niners game goes in the regular season for the Rams, especially in San Francisco on prime time. It's not great. It's not good. They got to fix some things. They got to be better, but it's just, I don't think we can base too much off of that. We can't really label them for the rest of the season based off that, but it is an interesting take too, because I think, Deaton Christopher here doesn't necessarily believe this. It may be, sometimes people say something that other people believe, or maybe he does believe it, but it is an interesting take because I think it's people are talking right now that the Rams are just not that good, but maybe they don't look pretty right now, but I'm still counting on them being in the playoffs. We already saw that one. And now we got from Dylan Radock. One of those got to be right. The Patriots will lose to all NFC North teams this year. So this is kind of a season one. It is a season one as well. I kind of like this one. It's interesting to think about. They already played the Packers, the Patriots. They played the Packers last week, went to overtime. They just lost that game. Put up a good fight, especially given they had their third-string quarterback in there. And then this week, they'll play the Detroit Lions. That feels like a 50-50 game to me. A lot of people picking the Patriots. It really depends on who's in, who's out. And then they'll play a non-NFC North team, and then they'll play the Bears, and then Thanksgiving they play the Vikings. So they will lose to all NFC North teams. So it's not going to take 4 more losses because they already lost to the Packers. It's going to take 3 more. But I like this one. Makes you think a little bit. I'm going to say piping, though. And maybe some people won't say. I don't think most people would. I think most people maybe would, actually. Or some people would. Because that Bears game, you expect the Patriots to beat the Bears. But I take a look at the Lions this week. I think they got a 50-50 shot, give or take, in that one. And I look at the Vikings game. That game is Thanksgiving night, prime time football. We know what happens to Kirk Cousins on prime time. It's not Monday night. He's so he's a little better, than Monday night there. But it's a winnable game for the Patriots. I'm gonna actually say maybe they're more likely to go 3-1 because remember they already have that loss than to go 0-4. Maybe that might be a little bold, but yeah, it's one of those ones you got to think about. But Patriots won't lose all 4 of those games. I just don't see it. Next up, we got from Q. It's Commander Q69. Commanders will get the number 1 overall pick. They are looking pretty bad right now, the Commanders. They play the Titans this week. It's a winnable game. Could go either way. Titans are favored for a reason, though. But Commanders could win it. They can pull it off. Could they get the number? Right now, it feels like they could get the number 1 overall pick because you take a look at the Commanders. What are they doing? Well, nothing. Absolutely nothing. They're not playing well on offense. They're definitely not playing well on defense. Back-to-back weeks they played the Eagles and the Cowboys, 2 very good hot teams right now, very good on defense. So maybe they just kind of need that right matchup. Maybe it's this week against the Titans. Again, I could see them winning that. But it is tough to trust them throughout the year here. I'm going to say I really don't think they'll get the number 1. I don't think that'll happen. I think other teams are more likely. How many can I list off? Probably not too many. Right now I have the Commanders at 31 in the power rankings, so they're down there. They're down there. I'm gonna say hot though. I just don't think it's gonna happen. I don't want to go piping because it's definitely possible. They really shouldn't be this bad, though, because even though Wentz has been struggling, he's not like contender of first overall pick bad unless his supporting cast is god-awful, and it's not. He's got good receivers, good running back. Offensive line's a little sus right now. Defense should be a lot better. They shouldn't be nearly as bad as they are, but they are right now. I think they got to snap out of it at some point. Does that mean I think they go on a crazy run and make the playoffs? Not saying that, but it's hard to see them getting number 1 overall pick. Interesting to think about. What would they do? You'd think they got to go quarterback. Wentz, you can get out of that deal and clear all that cap for next year. So if they got the first overall pick, I think they would move on from Wentz easy. I would guarantee it actually, and then they would draft quarterback, whether it be C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. Whoever they are higher on, of course. That's who they would go with. Interesting, though. Very interesting. Next up, we got Mr. I like this one a lot. This was a really good one. This is so simple, but it's a really good one. Mr. Liberty, Deion Jackson leads all rushers tonight. So tonight, Thursday Night Football, Colts versus the Broncos. Both teams missing their RB1. A lot of people probably like, who the hell is Deion Jackson? Young running back. I liked him a lot, actually, out of Duke as a late-round guy out of Duke. And he is listed, if Jonathan Taylor was in there, he's listed 3rd on the Colts running back depth chart. So behind Nyheim Hines as well. So Jonathan Taylor, that is out. So it's Nyheim Hines and Deion Jackson, and they elevate Phillip Lindsay. But it just feels like, I know Lindsay has more, and I also can see that too. Like Jackson already on the roster, Lindsay they had to elevate. So it would make sense, according to the depth chart, that Jackson's more the guy. I also could see Lindsay being more the guy because of his experience. But I think they kept Deion Jackson around for a reason. They like him. Again, I liked his tape a lot out of Duke there. So, but I think people would say it's got to be Hines for the Colts. It's got to be Gordon or Boone for the Broncos as the kind of the lead backs or the best case to lead the game the top rusher, lead the game as a runner tonight in tonight's game. But yeah, and those Broncos guys got a pretty good shot, but I think they're going to split pretty evenly because that's what the Broncos do, one, and then Melvin Gordon's fumbling issues. They didn't even give him the ball after that fumble. They gave Mike Boone the ball last week. So those are going to be a split. And Naheem Hines, you say, well, he's the starter now. He's second on the depth chart behind Jonathan Taylor, but he's not an every down back. He's not a guy that's going to be able to handle a load inside, or he can run inside, but an entire workload on the inside. And a lot of this game might be, let's not put the ball in harm's way. Let's kind of run the ball, win the clock, win the time of possession. So they're going to run the ball, and that leaves Deion Jackson as more of your every down style back versus Hines. So that's why this is a really good one because not many people at all know who Deion Jackson is, and he might be more of that every down back compared to really the rest of the guys in this game, not even the Colts guys, but because they're going to feel Gordon and Boone are kind of 50-50 even split. So this is a really good bold take here, and I'm actually going to say it's pretty realistic. I almost want to go what's happening. It'd be really bold to me, though, like really bold, because, again, Phillip Lindsay has more of that experience. They could give him as many or more carries than Jackson, and they could just go with Hines as well, even though he doesn't really get that feel of, 50, even 15, but that's really not that much. 20 carries on the inside, so a lot of different possibilities here, something I'll be watching, but I actually think this is realistic. It's a really good one. I like this one a lot here. All right, what's next? Jay Cincy. For the third straight time, Joe Burrow shreds Baltimore for 400-plus yards and 3-plus touchdowns. So the 2 games last year, Joe Burrow went freaking crazy, over 400 yards. Both those games, it was insane clinic out there, and they dominated the Ravens in their defense. And their defense is struggling a little bit more this year, but they're kind of trying to adjust some things, trying to throw in a little bit more zone coverage rather than man to be able to put up with not just the Bengals. The Bengals are a big one, though, because they play them twice a year. They saw what happened last year. The Bengals are probably number one on that list of why the Ravens are adjusting things. But teams like the Chiefs, the Bills as well, maybe the Chargers, teams in the AFC that they have to deal with. But the Bengals are kind of number one in their minds of why we have to adjust things. So, but so far this year, the adjustments haven't gone great for the Ravens. It's kind of a learning curve. You're more likely to blow coverages in zone, but you got to run more zone against the Bengals. So the matchup is, and the Ravens kind of went back towards a little bit more man actually recently because the first couple games, look at the Dolphins game, the zone just wasn't working out because the blown coverage is really guys just like missing. They're blowing their responsibility. What zone they have on the field. So it's kind of just it is just an up here thing. So do they kind of go back to more zone to deal with the Bengals, try to throw them off? That's kind of what I trust the guys to not make stupid high school level mistakes. I would trust them there this time around, but a lot of factors because the matchup still says Bengals. It's the same corners out there for the Rams. They were beat up last year too, don't forget though, but it's the same style players out there. Still a similar defense, even though they're trying to adjust things. The Bengals still have Joe Burrow. They still have those playmakers. They still have pretty much the same offense, which is supposed to be better, even though it hasn't been. So Burrow very well could do this. 400's a lot, though. And he did it twice, and he killed it one of the games, too. I'm gonna say it's hot, though. The Bengals don't feel right now. Maybe they get going. They kind of are starting to get going, but they still don't feel right. And I think the Ravens really mix it up. I think they surprise them with some different zone coverages here. So for kind of 2 reasons, I think Joe Burrow has a good game. I just don't think he has that 400 plus, but I'd be pretty damn impressed if he does it again. So I'm going to say hot. That is a good one, though. Nick Bell, the Chargers' suspect run defense holds the Browns to less than 75 rushing yards. So, yeah, the Chargers, one of the very worst run defenses last year. This year, statistically, they're kind of in the middle of the pack, even though to me, it feels like they're worse than middle of the pack. I kind of get that feeling, especially with Joey Bosa out, which he isn't involved in every running play because he's on one side, but he's a good run defender. But they could struggle a bit, and we know the Browns' running game could be the best in football. So this looks like a very, very bold take, and it kind of is bold, but there's also that scenario there's that scenario where the Chargers just look really good on run defense and just hold because how good they play on run, and stopping the run on their defensive side of things, they hold them to 75. I think that if you said that, like they play so well that they stop them to 75 yards rushing, I'd say that's piping, because that to me that's not going to happen. But if you say he didn't say that, he said they just hold them to less than 75 yards. Where he says the suspect run defense hold them less than 75 yards. I look at this different ways. So this is what I'm getting at. I think there's a scenario where the Chargers, Justin Herbert, that explosive offense, they get going early. They get up multiple scores. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I think it's a realistic scenarios where maybe the Browns cannot really run the ball as much as they want to because it runs the clock, and they're going to have to throw the ball then, and they're in a sticky situation. It's a possibility. It's not guaranteed to happen. So therefore, they may have a very limited rushing yards, not really because the Chargers' run defense was stout, it's because of what the Chargers' offense did. There are scenarios that people don't realize that offenses become run defenders in a way, because if you keep scoring and you get a big lead, you're taking away the run from a team. We saw with the Chiefs and the Bucks last Sunday night. People were like, the Bucks only ran the ball, Fournette only got 3 carries, and like, how did this happen? Were they stupid? And they're trying to come back from being down a lot, and they're trying to save time. So it makes sense. So I'm going to say I really still believe the Browns, because it doesn't just say one guy. It says the Browns. I think between Chubb and Hunt, I still think this is piping, actually. I still think this is piping. I think they're still going to get over 75. But if it does happen, I think the reason would be not because the Chargers' run defense played so well. It's because the offense maybe played so well, if you get what I'm saying there. That's an interesting one. Ron. Melvin Gordon steps up and shows flashes of his old self. So, yeah, he has not been good. He is fumbling the ball. That's a big reason he's fumbling the ball way too much. This is tough because the last fumble he had, I could see a little bit different reaction and attitude from him. He was very, very, very disappointed. I mean, he's probably disappointed. Anybody's probably disappointed in themselves when they fumble, but it seemed like another level. Like, man, this is enough's enough now with this, And that by itself does not fix the fumbling, but sometimes guys kick in the gear, and they and number one in their head while they're running now is kind of protecting the ball rather than making a guy miss. So that kind of can help him move forward, and then you kind of can work on bringing the other things back. So in a way, I kind of can, and now he knows, like, I have to step up because that last one was so brutal, and they're going to bench me, for good if I keep fumbling the ball, and it's on me. Javonte Williams is out, so in a way, I kind of can see it where he steps up and he plays pretty well. But another problem is maybe they're already almost had it with Gordon. Maybe they're going to play. We're going to see tonight something I'm looking forward to learning tonight. Maybe they play Boone, and I think Boone can run. He had to start a game for the Vikings when he played for them when he was like third string back. He actually had to start a game because the injuries down the stretch of the season, and he lit it up. I believe it was against the Bears. He lit it up. So maybe if he gets the nod, maybe he's solid, and then Gordon's very limited. So a lot of factors playing this one. Does Gordon get the shot? If he does he finally take care of the ball? So that's why it's a good one. There's definitely different scenarios here. I think most people would say hot probably because there's a lot that has to happen. He has to be the guy. The Broncos have to be okay with him being the guy. He has to stop fumbling, and he has to run a lot better because he used to run a lot better even without the fumbling. But I'm gonna say warm. And that's a little bold. I think I could see it. I kind of can see it, but it's a little warm there. I like it though. Makes me think a little bit. That's the ones I like. Big Ounce, Hurts, and Murray combined for over 200 rushing yards. So we got 2 scrambling quarterbacks, both in which teams actually, it's not scrambles, teams design runs for them, more so Hurts. I could see Hurts running for a lot. I could see him running for, man, it wouldn't completely shock me if 150 is a lot, but if he ran for 150 yards, it wouldn't be like, what? I think he could do it. Not that I'm predicting it. And Murray, I don't know if Murray's going to run crazy. It's probably their best chance to beat the Eagles, though. But they don't do enough design runs. Maybe they will. They like the option here and there. That'd be a good way to go against the Eagles because they're such a stout defense. They've been kind of, playing against your pro-style offenses and dominating them. With the Jags last week, Doug Peterson's offense, the Vikings, get a quarterback like Murray out in the outside, and then maybe that's your your wild card, your trump card there to upset that team, the Eagles. So they got to see. My point is they got to see that, and they got to understand we got to do this. We got to do that. So I could see him running for a bit. 200 rushing yards, 100 apiece. That doesn't happen a lot though. But 150 for Hurts and 50 for Murray. I think that's pretty realistic. Or 125 and 75. That's kind of bold to say it's realistic. I think it's another warm one. I almost went realistic, though. That's a lot of yards, but I'm kind of relying on... I know the Eagles are going to run Hurts. We're going to rely on the Cardinals running Murray as well, but definitely would be something I have my eye on now watching that game to see how crazy they go on the ground with those quarterbacks there, the scrambling. So looking forward to that game even more now. This is not even... I'm just scrolling through my tweets here. This is not even... that's all the hot takes. All right. There you have it. Justin Fields in the lineup. Carson Wentz out. And the way Carson Wentz has been playing, that's not terrible. Fields runs one in, and then you're in business in terms of fantasy. I think that's pretty possible against the Vikings as well. We're going back to the first one we started with, but that's going to wrap up your bold takes, I should say. Heading into week 5, if you want to play along next week, follow us on Twitter. Earlier on Thursday, I sent out a tweet. Let's hear those bold takes. You guys comment, and I kind of skim through them. Maybe you don't see every single one, and then pick out which ones kind of stand out as I skim through, because a lot of you trying to play along. I appreciate you very much. But, any important links are pinned down in the comments that you're looking for. We have full NFL coverage here, weekly picks, score predictions, power rankings, and a lot more. We're always going to be adding more content as well moving forward as the season goes on. So join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.